Date 2. While 6 months pregnant, I discovered my husband held a secret wedding with his mistress and his whole family attended. They whispered, "Don't let her hear us," outside my room. But before I made plans, struggling to move quickly, and there was no way I could carry Jack on my own. Panicking, I hurried to get him dressed, then ran next door to ask for help. "Sir, could you please help me carry my son to the car?" I asked my neighbor, breathless. The man, always quiet but kind-hearted, wasted no time. He helped me call a cab and gently carried Jack down the stairs, placing him inside the vehicle. "Thank you," I said with all the gratitude I could muster. He waved it off, then glanced behind me with concern. "You're all alone? All of them had a car crash on the way home. You're heavily pregnant, it's not safe to go to the hospital by yourself. Where is your husband?" I explained that Finian was out of town and that he could not make it back. The neighbor didn't even stop to grab a coat, he climbed into the car beside me and came along. At the hospital, the doctor examined Jack and said he needed to be admitted for observation. My heart sank. I sat in the hallway, surrounded by the sterile scent of disinfectant, feeling cold and empty. I could not help it, I broke down crying. Heaving sobs echoed in the corridor as strangers passed by, casting curious glances, some even stopped. One kind older woman approached me and asked gently, "Is no one here with you?" I shook my head. Whispers began to rise among the families gathered nearby. "Her husband is unbelievable," one woman said. "His wife is expecting and their son is burning up with fever, yet he's nowhere to be seen. If my husband ever did that to me, I'd rather stay single than have kids with him." Another added, "She must really love him." Someone else muttered, "To go through all this and still carry his second child, that takes guts." Their words pierced me. My neighbor returned with a cup of water. "Here, drink a little, it will be all right. Do not panic," he said. I took the water, my hands trembling. "Thank you, truly, I really do not know what I would have done without you today," I said. "Do not worry about it," he replied, but just before leaving, he added, "Still, maybe it's time to call your husband again. A job is never more important than his wife and children." That sentence echoed in my ears long after he had gone. I stared at my phone for a moment before finally dialing Fine again. This time, he picked up. "Hello, honey." His voice came through mixed with background noise, laughter, music, the buzz of conversation. Strange, considering it was just past 6 o'clock in the morning. "Where are you right now?" I asked instinctively. There was a pause. "I was just helping a friend out," he said after a beat. "I missed your calls earlier, what's going on? What kind of help?" I pressed. He chuckled nervously. "Why, you sound upset. What happened?" He was dodging the question. "Our son has a high fever," I said, my voice already breaking. "He is in danger, I need you to come home." There was another moment of silence, then Finian answered, his voice uncertain, "Honey, I really cannot leave right now. How about I call Helena? She can come to the hospital and stay with you, would that help?" I opened my mouth to respond, but just then, I heard a woman's voice on the other end of the line. Fine quickly hung up, but not before I caught her words. She said, "Fine, your daughter." Then silence. I froze. He has a daughter. Fine and I had been married for 5 years, we had only one son. I was still pregnant with our second child. That woman's child was his. As I sat there in that cold hospital, my hand still clutching the phone, I felt the world around me shift. And I remembered he said he would call Helena, so I opened the surveillance app on my phone. As expected, Finian made the call. He simply told Helena to come to the hospital and help me take care of the child. Her voice came through clearly from the surveillance camera, sharp and unmistakably irritated. "Are you out of your mind, brother?" Helena said. "Mom and I are on our way to your wedding, how do you expect me to stop everything and run to the hospital with her? And besides," she added with a scoff, "I told you already, your wife is such a drama queen. It is just a little fever, does that really call for a trip to the hospital?" Her tone was biting, almost like a woman scolding her husband. The anger in her voice poured out, far from the sweet, harmless face she usually put on in front of me. Then she hung up, clearly annoyed. Back in her car, Helena kept driving as she gently chatted with the little girl in the back seat. "Sweetheart," she cooed, "your daddy is really something. He sneaked away to marry your mom, and now he still lets that woman boss him around. Honestly, I feel bad for your mommy." It hit me like a bolt of lightning. A wedding. So that was where Helena and my mother-in-law were headed, to attend a wedding, my husband's wedding. And that sweet little girl, she was Nain's daughter, his lover's child. They all knew. Every one of them knew Finian had a mistress, knew he had fathered a child with her. And yet here I was, heavily pregnant, sitting in a cold hospital hallway, trying to soothe our feverish son alone. Everyone else was dressed in joy, preparing for a wedding. I stayed still, frozen in place. Then suddenly, I let out a laugh. It was sharp, hollow, the kind of laugh that rolls straight into tears. A child nearby caught sight of me and shrank behind her mother, pointing timidly. "Mommy, look," she whispered. "Why is that lady laughing and crying at the same time?" The woman clutched her daughter close and hurried away. "Come on, don't stare," she said. "Leave the crazy woman alone." My phone screen had been open the whole time. What Helena did not realize was that the little brooch pinned to her blouse was a live camera. Everything, her words, their faces, even the wedding preparations, was being streamed directly to me. They arrived at the venue shortly after. Fine and Nadine stepped forward to greet them, smiling warmly. "Mom, Helena, thank you both so much for coming all this way," Finian said, his tone full of affection. Nadine beamed like a bride should, greeting her mother-in-law and sister-in-law as if they had always been her family. She carried herself like the rightful wife, not a trace of shame. As I listened to them chat on the way, I started to piece things together. Nadine had grown tired of hiding, of living without a title. Since I was from the city and rarely visited the countryside, Fine Ian's mother had come up with what she thought was a perfect solution. They would hold the wedding in his hometown. No legal paperwork, but at least it would be a ceremony, some sort of recognition. And fine Ian, he agreed. Nadine stayed close to Helena, always smiling, always trying to win her over with flattery. She was clearly desperate to win her approval. The camera had her whole face in frame. I stared at it for a long time, unable to look away. To be honest, I had assumed if my husband were ever to cheat on me, he would have picked someone beautiful, someone more elegant than me. But Nadine, if I passed her on the street, I might have called her madam out of respect for her age. I could not understand what Finian saw in her. Then I remembered something strange. Fine always had this odd dependence on me, like a child needing his mother. I had thought it was just a part of our bond, something harmless, but now I saw it differently. It seemed he had a deeper craving, one that blurred boundaries. As the guests mingled, Fine Ian walked over and grinned. "Come on, let the relatives take their seats," he said. "The ceremony is about to begin." I could not stop staring at him, this man I had once held each night, who had whispered promises into my ear. Now, he looked only at Nadine. His eyes, once so tender with me, were soft and glowing with affection for her. It felt like 1,000 ants were crawling through my chest. I could barely breathe. So this was not a special look meant only for me. He had said he loved me, held me close, and yet all the while, he was with another woman, loving her, sleeping with her, building a family behind my back, even marrying her. The ceremony began not long after. Even through the screen, I could feel the warmth, the buzz of excitement. Helena must have been standing near the front. Her camera gave me a clear view of the stage. Fine and Nadine stood together, bathed in light, surrounded by smiling guests. All of them had a car crash on the way home. They looked so happy. The officiant invited Fine Ian to kiss the bride. My eyes burned red, but I kept them locked on the screen. Fine turned, smiling and gently wrapped his arms around Nain. He leaned in slow and sweet. The crowd erupted in cheers as their lips met. The kiss lingered, they held each other tightly. Tears streamed down my face. I began taking screenshots like a mad woman, capturing every image, every moment of betrayal. Then I turned off my phone screen. Whatever happened next, I no longer wanted to know. This marriage must end. I sat on the hospital corridor bench, staring blankly into space. Jack was still in critical condition. I felt completely helpless. I finally reached for my phone and dialed my mother's number. "Mom," I said in a trembling voice, "can you come to the hospital? Jack has a high fever, it's really bad." I could not finish my sentence. The tears came all at once, and I burst into uncontrollable sobs. My mother answered quickly and told me she would take a cab right away. I went to the restroom to wash my face when she arrived. I did not want her to see me like this, so drained and disheveled. I looked into the mirror, my eyes were hollow, my face pale and swollen from the pregnancy. I forced a bitter smile, but as I turned to leave, lost in thought, I did not notice the water on the floor. My foot slipped. The fall was hard, sharp pain shot through my lower body, and then the blood came. I gasped, panic gripping me. "Help! Help me, please!" Just as I cried out, a nurse who had come into the restroom saw me and rushed to call for emergency support. They got me onto a stretcher and wheeled me into the ER immediately. The prognosis was not good. The fall had caused severe trauma. The doctor's voice was heavy when he said, "There is no fetal heartbeat. We need to perform a termination." While I was in the operating room, my mother paced up and down the hallway, her heart breaking with every step. She was already getting on in years, and here I was still causing her this much worry. It made me feel unbearable guilt. When the doctor finally wheeled me out of surgery, my mother's eyes were red and swollen. She rushed to my side and held my hand tightly. "Fiona," she said with trembling lips, "are you all right, sweetheart? You poor child." I shook my head slowly. My voice was weak. "Where's Jack?" She pointed toward the room next door. "He is all right now. The fever has broken, and they are giving him fluids through and for." I let out a long breath of relief. As long as Jack was safe, I could survive anything. My mother stayed beside me, gently dabbing her eyes with her sleeve again and again. "It is such a shame, the baby was already 6 months along." Then she suddenly asked, "Where is Fine Ian? Why was he not here to take care of you? Especially with the baby almost due." Her words stabbed straight into my chest. I could barely breathe. The only images in my mind were of Fine holding that other woman in his arms at their wedding ceremony, kissing her tenderly.